ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to KNDI Artery Live channel. This platform is facilitated by Kenya Nutritionists and Dieticians Institute, which is established under the Nutritionists and Dietitians Act, Cap 253B. Under Section 6G and Section 6H, KNDI is mandated to provide training for nutritionists and dietitians, and also to provide sensitization on dietary and nutritional habits. Kindly note that strictly the discussions here will be used for public education and professional guidance. They will not replace individualized nutrition care. In case you want to engage a nutritionist, kindly ensure you engage a KNDI registered nutritionist. You can verify this on our website www.kndi.institute. Today we are honored to have our guest, Dr. David Okeyo, who will be discussing on food nutrient profiling. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute. Welcome, Dr. You can proceed to introduce yourself and give us a brief overview.
Thank you very much, Laura, and I'm happy to be hosted for today. My name is Dr. David Okeyo. Currently, I'm the Chief Executive Officer, Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute, and I'm also dabbling as the Chief of Party for Artery Programs. In line with the expertise, I'm a senior public health nutrition scientist, and I want to say that the field of nutrition is a field that has hope and also is very necessary, particularly for this country. And thank God we have the Nutritionists and Dietitians Act, which is guiding the principles of service delivery in nutrition. And this is making Kenya to be above any other country, because we are one of its kind with the Act. So thank you very much. I'm happy to be hosted today.
Thank you. To begin our discussions, could you explain what food nutrient profiling is?
Yes, Laura, I don't want to explain what food nutrients profiling is, but I want to get it from the perspective of who a nutritionist is, and why the nutritionist, and what tools nutritionists use. So in the field of public health, nutrition is a science, and that science is the science of food and nutrients and how it relates with human physiology and other processes. Now, we have discovered for some time that we train nutritionists from the universities and colleges, but there seems to be a lot of focus on nutrition service delivery, making the food component to be silent. And so I would want to start from the food component so that the clarification on nutrients, food nutrients profiling comes in with ease. First of all, I would want to define food. If you are okay with that, then I can go to the level of discussing the profile. So food, in my own thinking as an expert, is a material which is edible. Edible means it can be consumed. And when it goes into the body, it does not cause harm, but nourishes the body by supplying various nutrients, including chewing gum. That is how we define food from our Act. Now, when it comes to food nutrient profiling, I want to start by saying that most of our nutritionists in the country do not pay attention to the food itself before we get into the nutrients, which then comes handy for utilization when it comes to managing our humanity, either in a health facility or even at home. So food and nutrients are two important tools of a nutritionist. And so a good nutritionist or dietitian, for example, must first understand the science of food. So in the science of food, we have food itself, and we also have nutrients. Now, every food has a number of nutrients. And it's good to know the difference between food and nutrients. Many times outside there, even among some professionals, there's a general feeling that when you talk of protein, then meat is protein or fish is protein. That is not true. Food is meat, food is fish. From a layman's perspective, food is ugali, and food is a fruit like mango. That is food. But nutrients is what the food contains. And you'll find that a particular food has a number of nutrients. So when it comes to food nutrient profiling, it means understanding the food material in details in terms of nutrients that are listed or found inside through an analysis that can make someone have or build confidence. For example, when you talk of ugali is purely made most of the times from maize flour. So maize flour here, made processed in ugali, becomes food. So that maize flour has a number of nutrients in it. So generally is a contributor towards kilocalories. But what it means is that the kilocalories present, which is about 365, is made up or contributed towards by different nutrients. And an example of nutrients in this case is carbohydrates. So maize flour per 100 grams have carbohydrates and approximately between 70.1 to 74 grams, which means that if you take 100 grams of ugali, you expect between 71 to 74 grams of carbohydrates. It also has protein to the tune of 8.8 to about 9.6 grams. It also has fats. And fat here is ranging between 3.8 to 4.7. And it has fiber, 2.1 to 7.3 grams. And it also has moisture in it, which ranges between 10.2 to 11.4 grams. What this means is that you can easily say that maize flour is carbohydrate-rich food by virtue of the fact that a good proportion per 100 grams is made up of carbohydrates. So it's a good source of carbohydrate, but it does not mean it is carbohydrate because it has protein and other nutrients. We also have essential minerals and vitamins, for example. In the same maize flour, we can talk about magnesium, we can talk about phosphorus, for example. And you see, when we talk about all this, we are trying to tell the professionals and the public that we have a number of nutrients in that maize flour. So when decisions comes to using ugali as a material for any intervention, then you must be in a position to understand the different nutritive values in terms of nutrients that can be equated and used or applied for a particular case that is at hand. And why are we saying that the nutritionist must know their food? We have discovered that most of the nutritionists only talk about food from a general perspective without paying attention to the critical details of nutrients. And that is why they will not talk about the accuracy of portions, for example, when they're targeting a particular situation. So for you to manage well, you must know your food. For you to manage well, you must understand your food. And I want to give another example. For example, beef, for example. Beef, we get it from cow. Of course, we know it's a red meat. It also has its nutrients in it. We have 0 carbohydrates for beef if it's lean. And of course, apart from the glycogen, But we have also 26 to 35 grams of protein in beef, and then fat is about 11 to 20. This gives us a total of between 217 to 288 kilocalories. And we have other key nutrients like vitamins and zinc and iron and many others. Now, if you look at that beef, it can be called a protein-rich food. It does not mean that it doesn't have fat. So you cannot talk of beef being a protein, but it's a food that is rich in protein. So if you have that background, then using food to manage a patient or a client that is under you or seeking your services will become very easy when it comes to real food conversion. So that is what is meant by nutrient profiling. I hope I've answered you well.
Yes, Dr. You've answered me very well, and thank you for that foundation. So from a regulatory and professional standpoint, how should nutrient profiling be properly applied when it comes to diet planning?
Thank you very much, Laura. I think I would want to come back to our core curricular guideline and probably say that we may have been a bit wrong, and that is something that we need to correct now, to start dietetics and nutrition diagnosis combined with the basic foundational science of food. When I talk of basic foundational science of food, it means that a nutritionist that is properly trained must first of all know his or her food from the nutrient profiling that we have just talked about. And then two, that nutritionist must know how to prepare a food material that would sustain or maintain the nutritive content, even when it is in a combination. And the nutritionist therefore must learn the art of cooking and the science of cooking and the science of processing before they begin to think about using diet to manage a patient or to manage a condition or to keep a healthy condition. That nutritionist must understand, if I have this particular food, how much of the calories, for example, will I get from this food? Now we understand that most of the nutritionists have gone through a curriculum where they have been taught very well on food exchange list, which is already programmed. But from my perspective, I think a nutritionist must understand. They must understand their food, not the food that is on the classification of exchange. Their food. So that if I know that ugali is going to give me 72 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams, and also at the same time that same ugali in full plus proteins will give me calories of 365. And if I need 2,000 kilocalories for a particular client, then I would know that ugali of 365 will have given me 365 of the 2,000. So when I'm looking for additional food, or I'm looking at the ugali itself, I would want to ask myself how much portion of ugali would I need to get 1,000, and what can I add it with, such that when somebody in the village is eating ugali and vegetable, do they have enough to reach 2,000 kilocalories? And if they don't, what else do they need? Without making reference to the food exchange list, I can know how much quantity of ugali that should be on the table, and it must be consumed in full. Now, once it is consumed and it provides me with the kilocalories needed, if it meets the threshold per day, what other nutrients will this person have consumed alongside the calories? In terms of vitamin, that is micronutrients, and the minerals. And I would want to see whether the person also gets the minimum RDAs. So the good science of food is what can bring the profession of nutrition and dietetics practice to the level that is required, which we call competency. Because then we have come from a basic science knowledge to a service delivery. Now, in addition to this, we cannot forget that that nutritionist will have grounded him or herself in the basic science of biochemistry, in the basic science of physiology and in the basic science of pathophysiology if they're dealing with patients. So that by the time they're going to bring food in the management process, they understand also the body requirements. And so the distribution will be given as per the disease, as per the health condition, as per the physiology, as per the biochemical changes that may take place. And then they bring on board now the real food provision. And most of the time, what we are looking for is actually calories. And if we forget about that, they're just vitamins and minerals. So in the regulation, we want to strengthen the component of basic science in nutrition, where we emphasize more on anatomy and physiology, biochemistry. And then we want to emphasize on nutrient profiling, knowing your food before you use the food and how to prepare it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. As we conclude, what will you say are the key takeaways in summary?
The key takeaways for me is very simple. As you know, we are talking about knowing our food. But I want to say that any nutritionist that would want to excel in the practice of nutrition and dietetics, apart from what they have been taught in school, where they do a number of course units in nutrition, the foundation should be on food, understanding the food I use, both as food and also as a profile where we look at the facts about that food, the nutritive value of the food in terms of quantities. The nutritionist there must also learn the art of cooking. So there is no nutrition service delivery without knowing how to cook the food. And that is also going along with understanding the social and cultural differences of the people we handle. Now, when the nutritionist has understood that, they have to go now further to look to refresh themselves with the knowledge they got in organic chemistry, the knowledge they had in biochemistry, human physiology and anatomy, and then body measurements. If that nutritionist is grounded on those areas, then managing a patient with accuracy would be very easy. So we'll not have quackery, or we'll not have nutritionists practicing without consistency, without standardization. So this is the basic foundation that we require. And if we go like that, then service delivery for nutrition will improve in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. We've come to the end of our today's discussion. Thank you for your valuable insights. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us for today. Kindly tune in next time on Thursday, same time, for the next interesting topic. Eat Informed from your host, Wangara Laura. Goodbye.